T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Monitor Talk, episode 37. I am your host, Jim Black of the SOAR magazine, and with me is my partner in crime, Mike Stefani. Hey, buddy.
What's going on there, my beautiful co-host?
Hey. Listen, let us know what's going on with USARK.
Okay, well, here's the spiel. So USARK, anybody who keeps any of these reptiles, amphibians, and the creepy crawlers that we all love, join the USARK, go to their website, join at any tier level, whether it's the beginning all the way up to platinum. I myself am a silver member. These guys fight tirelessly for our rights. They really had headway with that light bulb ban. So join today and help them fight for us. Phil, Vanessa, and Jeremy, they do a wonderful job, but they need our support. It's all about numbers. Join today.
And our endorsing person for today is Blake's Exotic Feeders. Quality quail at quality prices. The best is only from Blake's Exotics. And today, who is joining us, Mike?
So today we have Steve Saindon, who I love this guy. I've known this guy for so long. I mean, we were probably young folks. I didn't have a big bald patch in the back of my head. And we were young and dumb and learning the ropes. And, along the way, I guess in the monitor world, even Steve here, we're both like pioneers in a lot of husbandry aspects. And, Steve is a creative mind. He's a creative genius. He's so artistic. I look up to him in many, many ways. We kind of both love the same species in the monitor world. A lot of my animals have gone to Steve, and he's gone on to, keep the productions going. So without further ado, my friend, Steve Saindon.
Hey, welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you
no problem.
joining us. This is awesome.
Yeah. So, well, let me just get something out of the way here. So last week, I was in Anaheim, California, doing a talk on Varanus togienus at the Reptile Talks, and I heard tell there was an imposter. Some clown came on here and tried to imitate old Uncle Mike.
Our darling Nick Lillis.
Love that guy, man. Yeah, he did. He really did. Other than the fact that the guy's about 1.5 feet taller than me, he did a great job.
Yeah, Nikki, shout out to you. You pulled it off, man. Like, people are still talking on the interwebs about that.
Absolutely.
Mike 2.0.
Yeah, and so Steve, I wanted to tell you, you were a huge part of my success with Varanus togienus. And of course, I'm very loyal to people that I like, and I'm pretty loyal. I'm pretty unloyal to people I don't like. So you were shouted out in my talk. I got to give credit where credit is due. And my success with togienus could never have happened without you, because I missed the boat the first time around. Thank God you weren't dumb like me, and you picked those up. And then, I think it was about a year later, we finally made our deal. Yeah. And that's how that's how that all happened. So, So now that we got you here, give us a lowdown of like the things the animals you're working with, and then I want to get into some other really important topics that you're right on board with. So, what are you working with these days?
So I got Ackies, like always, Gillis, the Mertens, laced, and some old Similis.
Nice. Well, hopefully it's soon here. I could get you some young Similis.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be
And
the dream.
man, I gotta say, you are killing it with those fucking Gill and I.
They're
Big
just unstoppable.
They are
Just keep
unstoppable, and such a personable species. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tell us a
they're
little
definitely
bit
one of the
about what you've had, with the Gill and I.
Yeah, so I've got two pairs, the same ones that I got from you, and this year I've got 2 clutches out of each of them, and then they're breeding for their 3rd one. So incubators filling up.
Wow.
And like when I had them, like obviously I got yours when they were very, very young. So I started seeing clutch productions of like, first clutch was 3 eggs, the next clutch was 4 eggs, and then, and I thought that was amazing for such a tiny species. Then I got up to 6 eggs, and I thought, oh yeah, Uncle Mike's the greatest. What'd you get this year?
I got 8 out of the first clutch, and then 6 on the next clutch after that.
First clutch? 8?
Crazy.
Well, first clutch since he
couldn't
had
believe they
so
fit
they're
in there. It's a tiny lizard.
yeah, they're I mean when you put your Gill and I, say you stretched it out on a piece of paper and you line up 8 eggs, where are they inside that animal?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I don't know how they fit.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like when I had mine, just to kind of, I don't want to take the spotlight from you, Steve-O, but this is a discovery that I had, an epiphany when I had mine. So when I first had them, I had 2.1, and when all of a sudden my 2 males started ritualized combat, so they're wrestling and they're doing all this and that, and I was like so enthralled looking at this ritualistic combat behavior that I just sat and watched, right? Well, after about 3 days, it all stopped, and all 3 of them lived happily in their enclosure. And then a few months go by, and it started to happen again. And I'm looking at these 2 males rolling around, fighting, blah, blah, and the female's just sitting up on a ledge watching everything. So, again, a few days go by, and everybody's back to peacefully coexisting. Another few months go by, and I get this combat again, and I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. They would take turns being the loser, obviously. It wasn't one was always dominant. So I let them wrestle for probably a couple of hours, and then I took out the subordinate animal. When I took that subordinate animal out, I put him in the other room, and by the time I got back into this room, the male was locked with the female. So I put it in my head that they would wrestle until, like, I guess in the wild, what would happen, the loser would run off and the male would get the spoils. So by me never removing a male, the instinct to combat was more so than to get the female. So when I quickly learned to remove the subordinate male, and then the winner would, he would concentrate on the female. That's when I started getting a bunch of good eggs. You still seeing that kind of stuff, or you keep them in pairs? What are you doing?
I have them in pairs right now just because I have the 2 males and 2 females. And it seems like they'll, like, I don't ever see them lock, but I'll see them in the same cork tube together for like a week. And then and then the female's usually like super hungry.
Yeah.
Like the males, like they seem like they like crickets and bugs more, but the females, if I like have like eggs or pinks, they're just like, give me that. Like they're just like so ravenous.
Yeah, they want a higher caloric because they know they're going to be supporting eggs,
Yeah.
But man, so to see, I guess like you're saying, you don't have a male in there. So if it wasn't for that extra male, I would never know when the female was cycling. However, they did. So I guess it'll work with 2 males for a dumb guy like me, or pairs for a guy like you.
That's incredible though, because like you guys have different approaches to it, but at the same time, if the husbandry needs are met, they will mate, they will thrive, they will do good.
Absolutely.
You know, what it seems. And it's like, how do you have them set up, Steve? Like, are they in a huge enclosure or like, because I know we
No,
just, you know, like
right now these are in kind of simple cages right now. They're like not my usual thing. They're just like a 3-foot PVC cage. And I did the nest box so that it's like a drawer, so it like slides out like a snake rack.
Yeah.
So that way I can check it really easy without disturbing the female. That's working really good. But so now the next step is to turn that into something that looks cool. So
Right.
I'll do like the rock work to hide where the nest box is and make it look more natural and stuff.
Yeah. So we could always get back to your success with the Gill and I. However, anybody who's watching this podcast, and I get it all the time, hey, you know, where can I get Gill and I? I'm going to tell you something right now. Steve's the guy. You want Gill and I, go to Steve. And I don't know, Steve, here's another thing that I've always found puzzling about the Gill and I that I kept. Man, my Gill and I were literally maybe 3 or 4 inches, and they were breeding. And then I see people post photos of Gill and I that are literally, you know, like from the fingertip, you know, down past the heel of their hand. And I just mine never got that big. Are they growing past the size, or is it maybe a locale thing? I don't know. I'm asking you.
Seems like the 2 males are probably 15 inches or so now.
Wow.
And then one of the females isn't that much smaller. She's probably a good foot long. But then the older of the 2 females, she's still pretty small. Like I would say under a foot. So
yeah,
I didn't know they got that big. I wasn't like, I never saw them remotely close to that big, and I just thought they didn't get that big.
No, I thought mine breeding and what seemed to have stayed at such a, you know, I only had those for like 2 or 3 years, so I didn't have them really long term. So I was always curious about if yours made it to that size or if they remain small. I was thinking maybe it's a locality thing. I had no idea, but if you're saying they're getting bigger, that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, the younger female, that was the one that was like a baby when you sent it to me.
Yeah.
And that one, when it started breeding, it was tiny. Like I couldn't believe how small it was.
Yep.
But it's grown quite a bit since then. So it's not that much smaller than the male. Like it's kind of surprising.
Right. But a great species
Yeah.
for sure.
They're so beautiful.
To touch on something you had said, and this is, you know, this is where mine and yours, besides the love of these animals, since we were kids back in the early days, we were never happy with the lowest common denominator enclosure with a one little half log hide and maybe a little branch and a water dish. You know, we always kind of decked our shit out. We really went over the top for the times, and it's really refreshing to see more and more people starting to do these naturalistic builds. But, you know, in my opinion, you're a godfather of that, and your creativity and your attention to detail it blows my mind. And tell us a little bit about like some of the things you've done and like how you're talking about blending your nest box, making it look like more naturalistic in the enclosure, because you do some phenomenal stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So like a lot of times, like I start out like with these Gill and I figuring out how to do it, like what they need and like simple setup, and then just start adding, like once I have that down and know what they want, then it's like, okay, how do I make
Did you freeze on us, Steve? Yeah, I think he froze on us.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Can you hear
Still
us?
good?
Oh,
There you go. There you go.
I can hear you.
yeah, we can hear you. And you're actually moving now, so it's good.
Good?
Yep. So you were saying about
Cool.
once you dial them in, now you know what you can and can't
Yeah,
do
then it's
by
like,
their
okay,
behavior.
yeah. Yeah, that's like ideally how I like to do it. And then, yeah, then from there, it's like a lot of times I'll look at like pictures or like just like reading about like whatever, some behavior that they're doing. And I'll be like, okay, what can I put in the cage that will let me see that? Like, you know, the Mertens, like, you know, they're always going to be like hanging out on a branch or something. So, I mean, that's pretty easy to replicate. But just like, so that you can just see some of the stuff that you would see them doing in, you know, in nature in your cage. I think that's like really cool. Just like with the Similis, like they want to be like with their head hanging out of a cork tube, like way up, waiting for something to come by they can ambush. So that's kind of the inspiration. But then I learned about the Zupoxy, started using that. That's been obviously awesome, you know,
Yes.
all about that. So the big,
and just so you all know, I use, of course, Steve introduced me to Zupoxy. My big concern was when I was building my Mertens enclosure is, like, you see people use the mortar and the thin set and stuff, and I am a concrete finisher by trade, and I know all the chemicals that are in there. And I didn't want to have chemicals, you know, leaching into my water because, again, my Mertens enclosure is like a paludarium. It's a natural ecosystem. I have fish in there, you know, invertebrates, plants, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, I turned to my friend Steve-O and I'm like, hey, is there any non-toxic, you know, a product out there? He turned me on to Zupoxy, and I kind of like stuck at the 307 light level. However, you, in doing all what you do, there's other Zupoxy products that you are now using that I guess, in my opinion, are probably easier to work with and blowing 307 out of the water. Can you explain some of these other products?
yeah, I got the armor coat. So it's like paintable basically. So same thing, you mix your two parts together. You can mix the thickening powder in it just like you would with the 307, but you don't have to. And it's you can paint it on with a chip brush. So what I've been doing now is I'll sculpt my foam and then paint that over it. And then if I'm just doing like simple rocks, like so the big lace monitor cage that I'm building now, I'll build up like 3 or 4 layers of that so that it's really hard, so it'll hold up to big monitors and claws. And then on the last coat, I'll just throw sand on it for texture, and that'll cure in there, and it's like rock hard. And then you can paint that at the end. So that's been cool. And then like you can do the 307 over that stuff, so you can seal the foam first, and then it just gives you like a nice, like clean, like hard coat to put the actual Zupoxy over. So yeah, that stuff's been awesome.
So when you guys say 307 and stuff, that's like a kit. I mean, I've heard of Zupoxy. I've watched videos, but I've never used it myself. So for people out there who want to actually, you know, attempt doing naturalistic enclosures, like I know a lot of people have seen like Brad's work and things like that. And it's like, that's not just slapping on a few little items and then like, there it is. Yeah, it's good to go. Like, is there like a beginner's form? Like you say 307, is there like a kit 1?
No, it's not like a kit 1. However, it seems that when you're first coming into it, you know, it seems to be like well, maybe I'm wrong, Steve, but I think that's like the entry level because it's a little easier to
Yeah.
work with. You could texture it, you could paint it. However, you know, as time goes on and you're discovering these other products, maybe 307 light is not the easiest of them because it's a lot of mixing. The only thing I like about 307 as compared to like a liquid epoxy, it's much more forgiving if you're not exactly right. Is the paintable kind more like a tabletop epoxy where you have to be very precise?
No, it seems to be the same. Like, I mix it up in like those, plastic mixing, like resin mixing cups with just a little graduations on the side. So I don't think
Right.
those are super accurate. I think you just have to mix it really well.
Right.
That is
Probably the more accurate, the better. But
like, does that take? Like, because you mentioned also that you're doing, these mixtures and you're doing these inserts and stuff for lace monitors, bigger, heavier animals with the potential to just shred everything.
yeah.
Like, how does that even work? Because a part of me was like, I can't do this for my monitors because I see what they're capable of shredding. And it's one of those, like, right now he's shredding my sofa. No, I'm joking. But no, I'm just saying, like, how do you know? Like, I mean, obviously you work with like Mike, obviously, with your sulfurs and the cumin guy and stuff. And like, how do you know? How do you know is enough?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was just a gamble.
Really?
Like, I think this is going to be good. And I mean, I've had like, I started doing like the grout over foam that everybody uses.
I'm glad to hear this story coming out, Steve. I want to tell that story.
Yeah, so I built this cage. I worked forever to make this big background for Ackies, and was really excited about it. Put them in there, and I think like a month or two later, they had like dug through the grout and were like digging out the styrofoam behind it. So that didn't work out so well.
And guys, this is Ori. He's saying hello and happy Saturday to you both.
Hey, happy Saturday, Ori.
Yeah, he would not.
So Steve, he, again, very creative artist, made this beautiful background with the typical, what people do is with the grout that you paint on, with the sand mix. And so your Ackies, now we're talking about Ackies, not Mertens, not lace monitors. So the Ackies found a little weak spot and take it from there, Steve.
I mean, they were like trying to burrow into the styrofoam. Like they had dug a hole out of it.
They were trying to make a hide.
Yeah, they were like, no, we can dig through this. That's fine.
So you inadvertently gave them a whole cavern system behind your shed, which you couldn't see them anymore.
He's like, it's awesome. He gave us a cave. Like, this is the best. You're the best.
But again, so I think something that Steve's missing here, but he knows. Zupoxy, when you really look into it, I mean, they market this as, Talon proof, approved by big cats. I mean, so if a big cat ain't gonna claw through it, we're pretty safe in thinking our monitors won't.
Yeah, for sure.
And then a little Aki said, "The hell with that! Hold my beer."
Mm-hmm.
And hold my beer. Let me show you what I can do.
But now with the Zupoxy, well, with the Zupoxy now there's none of that. So
yeah.
And I think I'm actually going to start with just to get a hold of it. I've done like 3D backgrounds for aquariums, not like public aquariums, like my personal aquariums. So I kind of want to do, I want to start with the Zupoxy, but I'm probably going to do it on a smaller scale for like, I have tarantulas and whiptail scorpions.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to do naturalistic environments for them, but using that and getting a hang of it just to see how I do with it. Because chances are, oh my God, if I were to start anywhere remotely close to what you guys are doing and you guys come visit, I'll be like, yeah, that's what I did with Zupoxy. And you'd be like, oh my God, that is so awesome. You made a cave and it's caverns and you have like the, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to look, right?
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing I've always said about Zupoxy. So, like, if you can envision what you want, if you can see that in your mind's eye, Zupoxy is such a product that, I mean, you could put it over wood, you could put it over roughed up PVC. Yeah, it adheres to most all products. So if you can see it in your mind's eye, you can make it. And again, art is very subjective. So, you know, you might get the one critique who the guy who comes over and goes, "Oh, that don't look like this or that." Hey, look, if it makes you happy and you like the way it looks, that's all that matters. So, and with that being said, now, Steve, some of the new things you're doing with like the lace insert, man, oh man, dude, that shit, you're that's blowing me away. The work you're doing right now it is very amazing.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that one's taking forever. I wish I could be done with it already, but can't rush it, I guess. But yeah, I got just a little rasp. It's like a wood rasp, and for carving the foam, that's been like a huge game changer because I can just like scrape away bits of it and do different shapes that I couldn't do as easily before.
Oh, what was that again? Because I used to use like the little burning bar, but that's like, and I used to use out of that, but I'm assuming that you can't really do that once you start adding epoxy to it and strengthening and making that foam harder.
Yeah, so like I'll carve all the foam first. I use the same that like the hot wire cutter or whatever. I'll use that too. Just a saw sometimes, a knife, sandpaper, but the little rasp thing, like it goes so fast. So I thought it might be right next to me.
You're gonna have to
is it like a cheese grater type rasp?
Yeah, it's like a cheese grater. Yeah, basically for wood though, and it's like $3 at Home Depot, and it was just like
small things. It looks almost like a shoehorn.
Yeah, yep, that's the one. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I've used that before. Okay, I thought you came out with some magical, you know.
Oh, no, that's super basic.
Like, oh my God! So, all right. So you build these enclosures. Obviously, you're doing well with your with the monitors and stuff like that. How long have you been doing this? Like, obviously, Mike's mentioned you being, you know, OG and stuff like that. And
dang. So
come on, it's not that long. You're not like 100 years old, dude.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when I first got Zupoxy though, that was probably close to 20 years ago when I first tried it, and maybe not quite that long. But yeah, maybe 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. I think so. Maybe not. But yeah, I didn't have like great luck with it at first because I was trying to sort of figure it out, and then probably like 10 years ago, that's when I like really started using it like a lot. So I was trying to think, Mike, when did we meet? Like, that was like late 90s,
bro. We go
when you
back
had your website.
Yeah, we go back to probably, well, you figure, I think kingsnake.com was founded in 98. So we've been friends since 98 on the forums. And then after all these years, we finally met a few times in person. You come over. And so, yeah, we've been friends for a very, very long time.
So that's about how long I've had monitors for.
Yeah. And did your passion with monitors begin with monitors, or were you the typical snake guy that found monitors and said, fuck the snakes?
No, I pretty much started with monitors. I mean, I did leopard geckos too. But yeah, I always, I guess, wanted like a Savannah monitor when I was a kid, and finally got my hands on one, and that was what it was.
No, yeah. So it's like why monitors?
It don't take
I don't
much.
know.
Mike, right? Like a lot of our guests and stuff, I'm like, why monitors? Because I mean, I know I have my reasons. Mike has his reasons and stuff, but why?
Like originally, I guess probably because they were just like little dinosaurs, you know, they're like these big tough, at least that's what you think from like the outside, but it's like we were saying earlier, they're so smart and their personalities, that's like what kept me interested and like got me more interested is just like, you know, they're always figuring stuff out, the way they look at you, like they, you know, they cock their head at you and it's like they're watching you just as much as you're watching them, which is like so cool.
Yeah. That's definitely
that's always like the epiphany with monitor keepers. You get one or whatever, you're young, you get one, and you know, we're weird. We sit and, you know, instead I'd rather watch my animals than TV, right? So
Right.
when you look in at a monitor, you're looking at them and you're studying them, and then you look in their eye and you realize, holy shit, this thing's studying me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when it all clicks in. Like these are not snakes sleeping in a corner digesting a meal. These things are figuring stuff out. They're so intelligent, and I think that's the allure for most people.
Yeah, and the fact that like, I mean, I know a lot of people do it because these animals get huge, but then there are some people that I talk to, and they're like, I am perfectly happy with my Aki. I live in a studio apartment. It's just one Aki and me, and they love it, and they still do the interactions just as if it were an Asian water monitor, you know, and things like that. It's like they still go through the motions. They're still doing this. They're still learning new things, and it's the same with my guys. Like I think that whole concept, like when you were saying they're looking back at you and they're watching you, and it's like I will sit there and I'm typing when I'm working or I'm in a meeting, and one of them, whoever's free roaming out, will be staring at me, and I'm just like, okay, why do I feel like I'm like under a microscope right now?
Yeah.
And it's because they're watching me because they weren't up when I was actually starting to thaw out their food. And they're looking at me like, any minute now, she's going to get up and she's going to feed me. I know it's there. I could smell it. And it's like timing. The timing is impeccable because they're so used to that routine that you see them parking their asses in the corner. And then they're like, any minute now, she's going to get up. So I'm just going to stay right here. I'm going to stay put. And
so I know, Steve, we're kind of jumping around. And I want to touch everything with. Forgive that sounded bad.
I was going to say what?
I want to touch on a lot of subjects with you, but you're working with some pretty unique locales of Akis too, as well, aren't you?
I just have those the German line yellows that you know, everybody knows the Hendrick reds, but he did some yellows too, so still have those going. I don't have any top enders anymore.
Pardon?
What's that?
I said
I don't.
Your yellows are the line of yellows that you're working with are pretty rare in the U.S. Not everybody.
I don't see much. I don't see yellows in general much. I guess I haven't been like paying super close attention lately, but it seems like yellows aren't around as much.
I always see the reds. I tend to see like the reds and stuff. I know of the yellows, but to be completely honest with you, I don't even.
I vaguely remember a conversation that we had, Steve, that you were saying how maybe you prefer the yellows over the reds.
Yeah, I like yellows more for sure. I think they're just like, well, my favorite Aki that I ever had was like one of my first yellows, and it was like the friendliest monitor that I've ever had. Like the way the cage was set up, it was kind of like maybe like chest height, and I'd put my arm out, like both arms on like the ledge to the opening, and it would run up like one arm, go up onto my shoulders, go up onto my head, run down the back of my leg, just like check out everything else that was going on in the room, and then would go back up my other arm and back into the cage. And that was like one of just like the coolest monitors I've ever had. It was just so friendly.
Hell
And,
yeah,
like,
he took himself
so
out and
curious.
put himself back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did all the work. There's this actually a member in my group, Monitor Lizards and All Things Reptile / Soar. I think her name, forgive me if I'm like ruining it, but it's either Audrey or Aubrey who has an Aki. What a sweetheart. Like, he is so bonded with her, and he works with her and she works with him, and I have a monster. I swear to God. It's got
So,
yeah,
Steve,
but yeah, so like they can be so sweet.
yeah. So, Steve, now future breedings. I know you're working on your lace, and you have that beautiful enclosure that you're gonna reveal to us someday. Because I mean, I get to see it all the time in private messages, and I know, man, I know when you complete that thing, it's so beautiful. It'll be an injustice if you don't share it. You know, we always talk, so I hear about your concerns and your pitfalls and your, you know, the ways you figure things out. So you're going to be breeding your lace, correct?
Yeah, at least once. Hopefully.
Yeah. So your lace, your Ackies, your Gilleneye, your Mertens that you have, any other future plans or anything?
Excuse me, guys.
For now, I'm pretty happy with what I have. If you can get Similis, I would definitely add those.
Gotcha. I do, I got you for sure. Because, man, you and I don't know anybody who's been working with that species as long as you and I.
Yeah, that was when I first met you, I was like, oh, Mike has Similis too. So yeah, that would be awesome. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, what monitor do I not want to keep? I mean, it's just, I don't have that much space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Guys, before we go any further, I want to say hello to the people who have joined us. We have Morph Avenue, Mike Duval. He says, good afternoon.
What's up, Mike?
How's it going?
Lucid Arboreals. Hello. Travis Lawson. Amy's Reptile Adventures. Hi, Amy. We have William Powell, who's also sent us a super chat. Thank you,
Bill.
So grateful. Thank you so much. And so far, that's who we have. Oh, we have Mutant Dragons. Hello, 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 hello. I just wanted to get in everything, folks. Our super chats go straight to USARK after YouTube take their cut. Just so you know, this is to support USARK in their endeavors as far as helping us keep our babies and doing what they need to do in, you know. Yeah, he's sure. He looks like he's going like that. But yeah, great support for USARK. Thank you so much for your contribution. And thank you guys for joining us as well. So yeah, carry on. So what is it? So we're doing lace now, right? Like, you guys, you're gonna jump into the lace monitor pool.
Yeah, I have hopefully a pair. I have a young one that looks like it's a female bells that I got from John. So yeah, and then I got a big male I've had for like 5 years that I got from Waterloo. He's like my baby. Yeah, he's super chill till he's not. He's funny. I'll go into my reptile room, and if I'm wearing a hat, it like pisses him off to no end. He's just like, wait, no, what is this? Like, he doesn't recognize me. He'll be just like puffing and puffing. It's so funny.
Both of mine do that when I wash my hair and I tie it up in a towel. They're like, who is that? You're like, oh. And then it's like they flan up, you know, and they pop.
Yep.
And I'm just like, dude, seriously.
Yeah. The first time that happened, I was like, what is your problem? And then finally I figured out, I'm like, oh, I have a hat on.
Take the hat off and everything goes back to normal. Yeah. So one more thing I want to take care of here. It's kind of like a little ball bust for both of you guys. So Brian Waterloo as we all know, he puts on Monitor Fest. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's the Saturday of. We just got done with the fourth one, and man, it was a huge success. It's really growing. It's growing, and everybody loves it. The only one who doesn't love it growing so much is Brian, but that's just the way he is. I mean, it's getting big, and he actually loves. By the time it's over, he's beaming from ear to ear. So 2026 Monitor Fest, Memorial Day weekend, the Saturday of. You guys got to come.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm actually thinking I might hold out so that you can come on that cart and pick me up with the Varanus license plate. Did you see that thing, Steve?
Right? Yes.
It's amazing. I'm just like,
Yes.
yeah, man, I'm not going. I'm just sitting right back until Mike come gets me.
I need a long extension cord, Jen. But I'll do it.
Definitely gonna make it out the next one. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's like,
something else I wanted to tell you, Steve-O. So, and I know that, dude, you did a great job with the Tojis when you had them. I mean, they came to me carefree, and I know when they first came in, they probably needed a lot of work, and you did a great job establishing them for captivity. However, I wanted you to know that in my talks with Dr. Robert Spracklin, he put a call out for shed samples of all species, whatever he needed, he put it out. So I sent him some belly scales, some tail scales, neck scales, throat, forearms, and he did studies on all this stuff. We know that. However, when he got to the Togianus, he said that on a microscopic level, he's studying the scale structures. And like he said, like, don't quote me and forgive me, Robert. I'm only interested in what I was interested in, obviously. So he was saying how the scale structure of like Varanus coming eye at a microscopic level, the base of each scale is circular, or whatever similis, they're kind of like a boomerang shape, or so on and so forth. He said when he studied the scale structures of Varanus togienus on a microscopic level, that it's unlike any other varanid he's ever seen or studied. He was describing to us, Jin, how the base of the scale is not circular or conical or anything like that. He said it's more reminiscent of like the carapace of a crab. So maybe boomerang shaped with some, spikes on one side or the other. He said he's never seen another varanid with this scale structure. So another thing, by you keeping them alive for that year and doing a great job with them, I'm proud that Robert is doing these studies, and we're learning more about such a unique species. And my hopes one day is to have enough of them in the incubator that I could send Robert a live specimen, and he could play with it, he could poke it, he could look at it, he could do all the things that he does. But again, man, my big thanks to you, because without you and John Adragna, who brought him in, so
I think we're losing him.
my hat's off to you.
Yeah,
that whole
that's
thing worked
another
out
thing,
like
too.
so good. Like
you
John
guys-
bringing them in.
Yeah, John bringing them in, and you guys working with these guys. This brings up a huge topic that a lot of people don't want to hear. Look what Robert's doing, and look what he just told us and what he found out, right, about the Tojis. And this is stuff that would never have been ever brought up. And this, again, they're new to captivity. People, they're going to be studied, and people like Robert do an amazing job by, and they do right by these animals. But at the same time, Mike, are you here? Are you frozen? Am I going to have to kick you out? Yeah, I think we lost Mike. I'll come back. Let me just message him. Sorry, folks. Let's just do my sign back in because I want him to be a part of this conversation because this is huge. This is so important.
Yeah, that's
yeah. He signed
crazy.
back in. No, he did not. Okay, let's hope he gets back in because it's important because
Bailed on us.
yeah, right. Like Robert had basically said this is something that he's never seen before.
Yeah.
And it's unlike.
Who would have thought?
Can you imagine? Like, who would have thought? Like, you look at the Tojis and stuff, and they're gorgeous. I love them, but you're like, okay, it's another monitor. Me, I'm a monitor fan. As Nikki says, we're at a day every day. So I love them all. If I could have a few of each of them, like in my own private zoo, I would. They are my favorite reptile. And then it's like to hear that something you just hold on.
All right, here we go.
Hi. Okay,
There he
good.
is.
I actually was bringing up the importance, and again, we spoke about this earlier and kind of talk about this a lot. Had Robert not picked up on this, nobody would have ever known about that with the Tojis. If you guys never worked with them, no one would have ever known about this with the Tojis. Now, God forbid, Tojis went extinct. None of this information would have surfaced. None of this,
Absolutely.
New information about these animals would have came up, and how important it is to sustain the species as pure as possible for future generations, because we don't know. We can't sit here as enthusiasts, as lovers of reptiles. We can't sit here with a straight face and say Tojis are going to be around forever. We can't even say that about Asian water monitors. We don't know. So how important is it from people from your perspective to keep these bloodlines as pure as possible?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're getting into a subject here that I really I don't want to cut Steve off, but kind of like on this subject, Steve is a part of it. So in breeding the Tojis, I've lost a couple of females, right? So we all know how rare they are coming in. They don't come in. And basically almost every one that has come in the United States in the last 10 years or so, I've wound up with. Maybe there's one or two that are out there that I know where they're at. However, when I lost a couple of the females, are we froze again?
No, I'm
No,
good.
we're good.
Okay. I don't. Okay.
We just so still like.
Yeah.
So, Steve, Jen knows the story, so I want you to know the story. So I was very desperate when I lost two gravid females. However, the one, she laid the 3 eggs that I hatched here. So I still have those captive borns and a couple others. And of course, I have OJ, who is probably, in my opinion, the most beautiful monitor lizard on the planet. He's stunning.
Gorgeous.
So, but he's I mean, he fills the name. He's OJ. He wants to kill me, but at any rate, so I reached out to John Adragna had told me Cold Blooded Shops has a Toji from Sulawesi. So out of desperation, I got this thing. As soon as I took it out of the bag, I'm like, this is a fucking male. Not only is it a male, this thing was giant. It looked nothing like Varanus togiensis. However, I was just going off the premise that it was a togiensis from Sulawesi, so it was a different locale. Maybe that had something to do with the difference. However, body structure, coloration, scalage, coloring, it was all totally different. So I started sending shed samples to Robert on this one. And when he got back to me on the Tojis, he goes, yes, it's, Varanus togiensis described in, I think it was 18 something, in the 1800s. And I'm like, okay, well, what about the Sulawesi togiensis? He goes, well, I got news for you on that too. And I'm like, okay, what is it? He goes, I can tell you what it isn't. He goes, it is not Varanus togianus. I'm like, oh, wow. I said, so what is it? And you know, Robert, he's the man when it comes to taxonomy and looking at wet specimens and stuff. He, to this day, has no idea what it is. So, yeah. So what's really crazy about it is, so I had this big male. Now I got Togies. I can't find a female. Now I have this unknown monitor. They don't even know what to look for in a female. However, there was another guy in New Jersey who said he has a Sulawesi togianus that's laying infertile eggs. So me and that guy, we just couldn't get together to get my big male Sulla with his female Sulla. We couldn't get it done. And so I bring what I call baby, that's the male Sulla. I bring it to Tinley. Of course, Nick, you know, he's a monitor addict. He's seen that thing and he goes, man, I love that thing, Uncle. I'm like, take it home. I said, you take it home. You live much closer to this other person. Maybe you guys can come up with an agreement to get these two lizards together. Again, very important, right? So they finally worked it out. Baby, my male Sulla that Nick had, he locked up with that egg-laying female, and then shortly after, baby passed away. Baby was, when it came into captivity, it was a giant. And what I really liked about the species, as a mature male, he looked so much like a Komodo dragon. It was unbelievable. So he was kind of like a graphite gray color with these yellow peach scales all over his body. Very, you know, almost like you blew dust, pink and yellow dust on him. Like big yellow peach salmon face, big bulbous nose, like a Komodo dragon. So Nick did really good with him. She laid 17 infertiles, unfortunately, and he passed from gout. So again, the reason I'm saying this, and if you breed Varanus togianus with this Sulawesi, whatever it is, you're not going to have pure togianus or whatever the other animal is. You're going to have hybrid mutts. And I hope nobody does that with that female, because that female is so important to science that, you know, I hope somewhere down the line, there were supposed to be some small young of these Sulla types, whatever they are, that were coming in. And then I just heard through the grapevine, Nick had told me that those 5 or 7 that were on the list to be imported into the United States, they had all passed. So again, it's the importance of not hybridizing, which it completely is wrong, but even cross localities, it's just keep all your animals pure. But okay, I'm done rambling. Now back to Steve-O. I'm sorry about that. I go off on my tangents.
It's good because it's this information's got to get out there. There's a lot of people who don't do this. A lot of people who just want to get into the breeding game. They don't know, or they do know, and they're not responsible in how they go about doing it. Because in my head, I constantly think that, what if there was a species-specific disease? Well, me having both my monitors, they're my world. What if all of a sudden there's like this you know, virus or something that it's only specific to Asian water monitors, and they're so intermixed or whatever that it's taking forever to find something to help them. And then I lose one of mine because, you know, science can't keep up. Science can't, you know, do their end of the job. Like you guys are doing the mass majority of the job. You guys are doing the breeding. You guys are doing the work. And to have someone go out there and be like, well, I have this female of this species and this male of that. Let me see what happens when I
you know what? So here,
stop it. Like, just stop.
Stop it. So here, let Steve-O, I'm sorry. We will get back to you, but this shit just strikes a nerve. This stuff, I know you're with us. That's why I want to get this out there. And you know what? I've lost a lot of people through this opinion, but it's got to be said. So most of this that's happening in our beloved Verandid community are from snake breeders coming into this. And, you know, the snake breeders have chocolate chip, mochaccino, you know, yellow belly, this, that. And well, we don't want that. We don't want that. And I'm going to tell you why. And it's coming to the forefront now. People who love, you know, again, I don't believe they love the animals like we love our animals. Keep it pure, because breeding a genetic anomaly, people think, oh, it just, you know, it's just changing their color and pattern. No, it's not. There's things that are happening within that animal that are more genetic anomalies that, you know, you don't see it because you're too busy looking at yellow and white, which, come on. So,
yeah, and it could be that first clutch, but what happens with the 6th or 7th and something happens miraculously and you don't understand why?
So my point is this: now and now, more and more people like Nicky Nick, who I've changed his mind on color morphs and this and that. I love the kid. He's so bright and smart. He's sending me things saying, hey, Uncle Mike, what do you think of this T positive or negative? What? I don't care. I don't give a crap about genetics. What do you see in this animal? I'm like, well, I don't really know. It don't quite look like a monitor lizard. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. So generations in, we're starting to see skeletal deformities. So you wind up with a water monitor that has this long snout and the big arch up over their eyes, rather than it sloping smoothly like a streamline. You're getting this almost like a dog-shaped head with this big hump where the eyes are. So you're getting skeletal deformities, you know, color and pattern deformities, call it what it is. And the more and more you breed this, you're going to have internal deformities that, you know, maybe their kidneys shut down, or I don't even know, because we're in the infancy of it. But please, everybody who's doing that stuff, do what you're going to do. And nobody's going to listen to me because those people are doing what they're doing. But as you see this stuff, maybe you'll realize this might not be the smartest thing to do. There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason an albino won't survive in the wild. There's a reason that a leucistic won't survive in the wild. It's God's way of saying, the bird, hey, go get that white thing, pluck that thing out of nature because it's not good for the species. Now, however, I'm not against natural occurring color morphs and pattern morphs. I'm not against that at all. If it works in the wild, God bless them. But if it doesn't work in the wild, stop doing it in captivity, please.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree with that. And again,
So,
like, I see.
I am literally gonna. Okay, I've taken up so much of Steve's time. We're gonna go long because it's 12 now. I'm literally gonna shut up. Please, Jen, take it away with Steve.
All right. Steve. So your latest project is with the lace monitors. Is it Bell's lace or just your lace monitors that
I have
looking into?
one Bell's that's the one I think is a female, and then the other two I have my male, and then I'm taking care of another normal male from Andrew Acevedo. I'm lizard sitting for him, so
Nice lizard sitting. That's
yeah.
so cool. So with your breeding projects and things of that nature, do you have like videos on these enclosures you're putting together, the animals that where can people reach out to you and see what you do and things of that nature?
I have an Instagram. I haven't posted, I honestly haven't posted a whole lot lately. Like, once I get some more progress, I guess I'll make sure and change that.
Yeah.
But I always think, like, about halfway through, I'm like, man, I should have taken more pictures so that, like, I could do like a, this is how I did it, like more steps. And then I always forget. So I'll try and get better about that, because maybe that would help other people get excited to do stuff.
Like hearing you talk about like the enclosures and stuff, and we were talking backstage and stuff like that. Like I'm very curious to see like the stuff that you put together, and I always find that inspiring too. So that when I do move and I do start getting into the projects myself, you know, I have a point of reference, you know, to
Yeah.
actually look at and go through it. Like I know I have Brad. I'm gonna make you and Brad really sick, you know, like.
Well, you know, that's I love Brad and Steve's approach to. I think me and Steve are more in the lines on the same page, but like Brad, the way he speaks and he's calm. I'm like a freaking psycho.
You're like an 18-wheeler, Mike.
He's calm. He's calm and he's precise with everything he does, and he presents it in such a great way that people can follow. And Steve, you're like that in a lot of ways too. But I noticed one thing about you, Steve-O, is like, yeah, you're like me. While I'm doing it, I'm not thinking about taking step by step. But when you get done with it, I mean, so your approach is like my approach. We love to look at it, and it sits well with our animals too. Plus, when people come and see, they can't believe what you can do for these animals. So, yeah, I really hope you start sharing some of your new stuff, especially the paint on and the stamping stuff that you're doing is just phenomenal.
Yeah, my thing too is that I'm always trying to boast naturalistic in enclosures and things of that nature, because a lot of people will post pictures of the bare minimum, and they'll have a hatchling that's in there, and it's like that thing's not going to last in there another week. Like, you need to do something. I also feel like a lot of people don't know, and I also feel like they should be inspired. And it's like, if you're doing these things, like, how do you feel like telling everybody who's watching or who's going to watch later on, how do you think it affects monitors from going through one aspect and then to a naturalistic environment? Is it a form of enrichment? Do you see different behaviors that you normally don't see in them?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of like what inspires me to like make certain features or whatever, is like, just like I was saying, like looking at pictures or like talking with people that have like observed them in nature, and like they're doing, you know, oh, we always see them doing this, or you always see pictures of them doing that. And it's like putting that in the cage just so that you can see them do that behavior, even if it's just like a simple thing. To me, that's always really cool. Like when that works out and you see them doing that in your cage, it's always so cool to me.
Yeah, that form of enrichment, like I remember this was years ago, they had, it was on the news, and it was basically, I don't know what zoo it was, but they were like, we realized, and we just studied that Komodo dragons actually like to play. And and you see it literally taking a bucket, puts a bucket on its head. It literally put it on its head, and it's trying to walk around with this bucket. And then they had another thing where they had a brown paper bag, and it looked like it had stuff in it. And then it was a few different little bags here and there. It's like one of them was empty. Like once he opened it up, it was like air. And then another one had like a rabbit pelt or something in it. So there's all these different aspects of enrichment. And I feel that it also gives them a time of decompressing.
I used to do the brown paper bag thing with girls in high school. No, they would put the brown paper bag on my head, but it was fun nonetheless.
I was just like, he did okay. I thought he was going to talk about the Tojis or something. I'm just like, so
like Steve-O. One thing I noticed, like in my Mertens build, because your Mertens build is like off the charts. It's you know, between me, you, and Brad's, these Mertens are fucking living large,
right?
So, pardon. What I wanted to say. So in my enclosure, there's the one thing I call the water shelf where,
Mhm.
so the spray bar from my filter, it runs out over a slab, a homemade slab, and then it drips into the water. However, inadvertently, it grows a lot of algae. And then I found out in the past that actually is a way of filtering the
Yep.
water. And 90% of the time when my Mertens drink, they go to that water shelf where there's a thin layer of water rolling over an algae bed, and they drink from that. Have you
Filtration.
noticed anything like that in your water features or any features that they use and you would think, wow, that was, it was brilliant that I did that or whatever?
Both I built a ledge in the back, like a big rock ledge at the very back that's like probably 3/4 of the way up the wall it stops, and that's like the male is there always, like that's just like
He's got
his spot.
view.
And yeah, he's just looking out on the room. He can be above the water. And then the females like I did another ledge over to hide the lights. They like that. And then there's a branch that runs across, like all the way across the cage, and
That's
they like
beautiful.
to sit on that too.
Nice. Actually, the Happy Monitor, Dexter and Jody, her filtration system is based on algae as well. And it's crazy to think about that, there's a purpose for that. And animals are innate and engineered to know these things. It's not one of those, why is it drinking from there instead of there? It's like, they know.
Yeah, you know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. We're the ones that don't know what we're doing.
Well, Steve, if you can remember back to the early kingsnake.com days, and like there was the one fella who's always going to remain nameless, but he was always, like, hey, they know that's a fake plant. I'm like, yeah, they know that the light bulb ain't the sun either. However, plants and multiple basking ledges with plants between them, it gives them visual barriers to, so speak on that a little bit about how you can use aesthetics in your enclosure to actually benefit the animals and multiple animals.
Yeah, I mean, just adding a background, you're almost doubling the amount of space that they have to utilize. I mean, every monitor is going to use, even if it's a terrestrial species, it's still going to climb a background. So right there, you've doubled your space. And then, like you're saying, you get plants or fake plants or, even simple stuff like aquaculture netting, like just so that it hides, they're not staring at each other the whole time if you've got them paired up or whatever. Like there's and then, yeah, just more security for them. 100% agree there.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to people talk about proper husbandry, and it's like, yeah, heat, humidity, basking spot, clean water, but there's a lot more to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, especially like you guys, when you're talking about the whole breeding thing, that little plastic plant that somebody's making fun of is actually giving them a reprieve from each other. Give them a break, and then they could get back to it later on or whatever the case may be. But, sometimes they don't feel comfortable being looked at and gawked at 24/7 from us.
Yeah. 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 Us too, like hide from each other, hide from us, but just having just something in there where they're looking out through something at you and watching you, it can make them more comfortable. Same with like those the holes that you were drilling in your cork tubes, Mike. I've used that here now, and that works great.
Visuals, like little windows.
Yeah.
I think Cody does that too with his tree monitors, right? I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Cody does so much, but it just makes sense, because if you give anything really deep hiding like that, and you ever wanna, do a wellness check, and it's deep hiding, well, now you're doing two things, you're teaching your animal, no matter where he hides, where he feels secure, that you're going to get in there and you're the big bad gorilla guy. However, with these windows, not only can you feed them through there, they still feel very secure, but you can actually monitor their health without putting hands on them.
Yeah, without stressing them out.
Right, without stressing them out.
Yep. That's so important.
So you use that technique as well, huh, Steve-O?
Yeah, it works even with the Gillis. Like, I didn't drill holes, but there's little holes in the cork tubes that I chose, and I'll see them in through there. And then the females, both of them know I can hold like a pink or something to them, and like their head will just pop right out.
Yeah,
I love that.
Jack in the box.
Yeah.
Yep.
Check in the box. That is so funny. That is.
So
what else we got? Like, Steve-O, is there anything else that you have up and coming that you want to share with us? Anything, I want to make sure we get everything out of you, Steve-O, because, I don't know how long it's going to take to get a video from you or,
Right.
So
that's the biggest up and coming thing is just getting this cage done. Now the weather's nice, so the epoxy cure is good in the garage. So hoping the next, at least by end of June, I'm hoping it should be done. So that's kind of my big project.
How long does it take you to do a cyclable enclosure?
Too long. I mean, this one just didn't have a great place to work on it because in the winter that stuff won't cure in my garage. So kind of had to work on it for the summer, and then once it was cold, take a break. So we're back to working on it full time now. So
yeah, and Steve has a life unlike me. I'm retired, so. But Steve has a life. He has a really good job, and he needs to do that. So this is probably more in your spare time, I would imagine, Steve-O.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I always see how fast you get stuff done, and I'm like, I need to retire. Only.
It's more than that for me. I'm like, I can't stand. When it's partially done, 90% of the time, Steve, I've already got the animal here waiting to go into the enclosure. Right. So it's out of really necessity. But however, personally, I don't think my stuff looks as nice as your stuff. And, I think it's because of all the time you put into it. And what I mean, the time you put into it, I mean, so when you start and then you come back to it, now you might have a different idea where I'm like, I got the picture in my head and it's like, boom, that's the way it comes out. Where I like Brad and you guys take your time and maybe you'll figure out something. Oh, maybe that wouldn't work. By that time I'm repairing, you know what I mean? And you guys are just, you're fixing before there's a problem.
Well, I mean, the 50 messages that I sent to you, hey, I was thinking, what if I did this? You think that's a good idea?
That's going to be me. Be prepared.
You know what?
Listen, I was thinking of adding the Millennium Falcon smack in the middle.
Yeah. Well, Steve, that's one thing I got to say about guys like you and Nick and Brad, Brian Waterloo. I value our friendship and our conversations more than any of you guys can even understand because, iron sharpens iron. And when we bounce ideas off of each other, man, it only benefits our animals in the long run. So I really value our friendship, our long-term friendship. I look forward to those. They're usually later at night. Oh, Steve will send me a picture and then I'll send something back. And then before I know it, it's like midnight. I'm like, oh, fuck, this guy's got to go to work in the morning. But you keep coming. So, again, I thank you for coming on, Steve. I'm not done with you, but I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your friendship and all the things we waste time thinking about, even though it's not a waste.
Not a waste.
But Yeah, no, it's not a waste because
No.
literally then we were both thinking and shit. So
Yep.
I hope to see you in October.
Yeah, I got to try and make Tinley this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. Like three. I have three. I have Iguanaland, I have Tinley, and I have Monitor Fest. That's my bucket list. Like that's the hell with Disney, man. Like
Yeah.
I need to hit up my monitor people. I need to soon. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, Tinley in October. Hopefully I can make that one. And Daytona. I'll probably be at Daytona too because I got to have my beach time.
Yeah, I might try Daytona.
August. Daytona's August, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I might be down there by that time.
Yeah.
I think Daytona's July because they moved Schaumburg to August, but I may be wrong.
It could.
It's August.
Always because of that change, I'm always confusing them.
Oh wait, maybe Schaumburg is July then. I don't know.
One of them is July and the other one's August. But
yeah, the last time I was in Daytona, it was Orlando. So I ain't been there in a long time.
Yeah.
I meet up with John there. That's like my time to get to see John. So
yeah, it's so funny. Like I live in New York. John lives in New York. He's like an hour away from me, and the only time I've ever saw him was like 2 years ago now. The White Plains Expo.
Oh yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, like, he's right there. Like seriously, like.
And you and him went to high school together, Jen.
Yeah, we went to high school together. Yeah.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we never really talked or anything back then. But
so was John in high school like me? Did the girls put the bag over his head or no?
I don't know. I don't even know. But I was mean back then. So he probably ran for me quite a few times. So I'm just saying, like, he probably was like, I'm not even talking to her. And stuff. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, like Robert Sprackman had a birthday recently. So happy birthday, Rob.
Happy birthday, Robert.
I saw that chocolate cake, Rob. And you say your wife doesn't really care for cake. I love cake.
I'm sure he ate that whole thing. I'm not a big sweets guy, but man, that cake looked good.
It did. It looked so amazing. So, oh my God. But you know what? I think when the time does come, whether it be Daytona or Tinley or Monitor Fest, it's going to be so amazing to finally like sit down and talk with you guys in person without things freezing or monitors freaking in on my shit. You notice that, right? Ree's just like, hey, it's my house. I don't care what you do. Go ahead, go on with your podcast. Hi, Uncle Mike, and then he just keeps walking. But
so with Steve-O, you can find where can we find you and maybe get a glimpse at some of your, I know like your Mertens build is posted up on Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Insta. Yeah.
Okay, so where can we find and see some of the stuff that we're talking about? Beautiful stuff.
I want people to see that. I want people to see, that awesome. I want to see it. I want to see that awesome sauce. Like I got.
Yeah. What is my Insta? I think it's SMS Goannas now.
Oh, you changed it.
So, yeah, it's either that or it's LCHC13.
Steve, a little advice from Uncle Mike. Man, you got to make that a little easier to remember because I'm always, there's another guy that's JLC something, and I'm like, is that Steve? No, that's the other guy. Where's Steve?
Well, and then it's like, is that an L or is that an I? Yeah, that was like a dumb handle. Well, that was back from King Snakes, like way back in the day. I've just kept that same handle, and it's like, should have changed that. That's why I went to SMS, because that's just my initials. So
we'll figure it out because I know me. Like I'm gonna like wind up looking up, hearing you and Mike talk about it. I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna be like, hey guys, look at what he did.
Jen, so is there any way to add his info into the whatever they call that?
I
Like,
could add it to the chat, but at the same time, I need to actually find the like a living link for it and copy it over, and that's going to take a little bit.
okay, well, I just want you to say, anybody who's interested in seeing what, I know for sure your Mertens build is there, right?
Yep. My Mertens is there. Some of those trees that I did with that 307 Flex are on there. And some Aki Vibs. Yeah, there's a bunch on there. So
Good. Yeah, go check them out on Instagram, Steve Saindon, and follow the whatever they give you.
Yeah.
But a question on the Flex, because in talking with you, I had bought some Flex, and I mean, again, how do you like the Flex? Do you find it kind of loses grip after a while, or is all your stuff solid with it?
I just built those two like tree trunks with it, and they're still going strong. I think I'm not going to use it with the lace trees. I think I'm just going to do normal 307 just because I think their claws are just
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, do you guys, both of you guys, actually, this is a good question. Do you guys often, and after a few years, have to do maintenance to cover up said scratches or damage or things of that nature? Because I know some people think that this stuff is forever, and it's like wear and tear. People wear and tear.
There's a little
wear and tear. What I found the most, and then I'll let Steve explain. What I found the most is like often used pathways, like when they're coming up out of my water and then over onto the land bridge. That one rim that I made to hold back some of the substrate that I use on the top, it's not worn off. The paint wears off, and you got to repaint it. Yep. So repainting you got to do every now and then. But I've never really had a fix Zupoxy. I mean, this stuff is beautiful.
Yeah, the only thing I've noticed is like thin spots, like all of like kind of almost like mist, like an area where it was really thin in that area. Sometimes I'll have to go back and touch that up, but I think that's where I think using this armor coat first will really help, because it's going to have like a hard layer underneath, so I don't have to like use as like thorough of coverage with the 307. Like you can just basically sculpt on details because it's already like solid and hard. Yeah.
And how about in water features? Like, do you find it that it wears down quicker because it's constantly either underwater or water's passing it?
There's 1618 as a clear coat. I'm trying that for underwater stuff because I did notice the paint. I don't know if that happened with yours, but the paint in my Mertens water area didn't hold up as well as it did on the land. And like, that's a pain to repaint. So
yeah.
My paint seems to be holding up well. However, my goal with my water feature was always to get a nice layer of green algae.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I do have the green algae, and I think that's beautiful. So I just leave that alone.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I always wondered about that because when I did my aquarium setups for oddball fish, I had the typical 3D universal rock background. Mm-hmm. And then after a few years, like it just wears down. So I would touch it up. And then in my head, I'm just like, if I do something similar for monitors, now you have that aspect of obviously the, wear and tear with them. And then obviously I want to have something with a water feature. Like that's, I love seeing them in water, how they swim and how they interact with everything. So it's like, is it going to be something that I'm going to have to empty the entire, water feature out in 5 years to touch it up and then wait for that to dry? So am I going to have an alternate enclosure while I'm doing maintenance,
Right. I think if you use that 1618 on the water area, I think that stuff will go a long way. I use that on the lace build. I'm doing little water basins just built into the background just to make it so that there's more floor space. And I coated it with that stuff. It's the first time I've tried it. And it's like kind of shiny, so you wouldn't want to use it everywhere else. but it's like a real hard, like clear epoxy coat.
It's
So-
almost like the tabletop.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
not like that. Yeah, but again, you can paint it on. You could tint it too with you can mix like an epoxy pigment, like a resin pigment in there, and you could
Right.
tint it to be whatever color you want to.
Yeah, that's
Well-
another thing now that I think about it too, because one of my monitors is special needs. So the way he walks on things is different than the other guy does. Like he'll wear down something a lot quicker than Reed does. So, you know, that's another thing. Like obviously I can't do a deep water feature for him, but is it going to be something where I have to repair his water feature a lot more often or things like that? That's why, like, I worry. I mean, I'll do it. It's no big deal. It is what it is. But if I can prolong it for longer, yeah, I want to do that.
If you remember my Kimberly Rock build that I did, Steve,
Yeah.
there was a couple of ledges that before I started Zupoxy, and I took the heat gun and I just concentrated in one area, and you know how that foam kind of melts,
Yeah.
and it's very smooth. So I melt these little divots, and then instead of texturing the divots, I use the wet gloved hand and I smoothed it really, really good. So when I would miss the cage, those little pits would kind of hold water where they would come and drink, but they would
Yeah.
dry up.
Nice.
Yeah,
Is
I
that what
remember
you're
that.
doing with your with your lace cage? Something like that, similar?
Kind of only it's like maybe 5 or 6 inches deep, and then like a little more than a foot. Like they could probably get in there and
Oh, so it's like a waiting spot. Like it's not
Yeah.
actually just swimming.
A little
with
wallow
that
pit.
soap.
right. Yeah.
Nice. That's gonna look beautiful.
Well, listen, man, Steve, we're going to definitely come back on for Steve-O 2.0, but I got to say, I'm getting the old, from my wife. It's my mother-in-law's 80th birthday. So,
Oh wow! Happy birthday.
Nice.
and
nice.
we're on our way to that. So, I mean, you guys can continue on if you want. That's perfectly fine with me, but I got to skate. I hate to say it, Steve-O.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. That's been fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we'll have you on again, Steve-O. You know that.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Steve, and obviously my partner in crime, Mike. Thank you so much, guys. Like, subscribe, join the Trap Talk, the coolest reptile network in the world. So everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and guys, have a good one.
Thank you, Steve-O. Thank
See
you,
ya. Thank you,
kids.
guys.
Bye.
Bye now.